How we doing, Illumineers? Today we are talking about my ICL match from yesterday. I played against SLTC. I played versus Jakxshadows on Blue Steel. He was on a very interesting build, and I also took a list that I hadn't played at all up until these games. So I figured I would share with you our games, talk you through my thought processes and the gameplay, and explain a few things about the deck, about both decks for that matter, because they're both exciting new meta options for this format. So without further ado, let's get things started. Sorry if you see me looking off this way. I do have the footage playing on my monitor over here. All right, so I start off by, let's run it back real quick. I'm inking a Diablo to play a Palace Guard. Traditionally, Diablo is a good play there, but I don't know what I'm up against, and I value the 4 willpower from Palace Guard. We see a Nick Wild go into the Inkwell, and then a Nick Wild being played for my opponent. So Nick Wild's a 2/2. 1 drop, no effect. It's a shift target. That's why it's there first and foremost. I going into this, or in this first game rather, I didn't know what the shift Nick Wild did. So you'll see me in real time try to adapt to the presence of a new card and deal with it. So here we see a Sail the Azurite Sea. Jasmine goes in the Inkwell, and we see Strength join Jasmine in the Inkwell, and Jasmine 1-drop being played. So I'm assuming the 1-drop came off of the Sail, or my opponent's hand was very bricky, because you would probably want to keep that Jasmine shift if you had the 1-drop in hand. So I'm guessing he got the 1-drop off the Sail. Yeah, at this point, I've played the Timothy on 2. That's not like, there's only 1 Timothy in this list. We are playing Ruby Amethyst. Sorry, I didn't specify what I was on. And the Timothy is our 9th 2-drop. So we play 4 copies of Lumiere and 4 copies of the Diablo, the 2/2 quest for 2. And those are our preferred plays on 2, but Timothy can be nice. I did win die roll. I'm going first here, so Timothy can be nice to kind of get the ball rolling and put the gas on before your opponent has a chance to really figure out what's happening. But as you'll see, it wasn't the best option in this scenario. So yeah, we see the ramp into the Jasmine. I go ahead and I ink. They never come back. And I play the evasive 1/3 Peter Pan. This is basically Surfer Mini for those of you that played early on. And yeah, so we see the shift, and let's talk about the shift real quick. Nick Wild is a 5/4 that quests for 2. He's an ally, and he also has the effect, the ally meaning he can be searched by Jasmine. And he has a text that when one of your detective characters challenges and banishes another character, you may draw a card. So as we see right here, you're able to shift and immediately swing with him. He takes out my Timothy, removing that lore threat while also drawing himself a card and increasing his consistency. And now this 5/4 that he's playing on turn 3, I'm not going to punch that thing. I don't want to trade my guys into it. So that's a pretty sticky body early on in the game. And I definitely think there are some legs to this, to the shift line. I picked up my foil Robin Hoods last night right after this game because I was impressed. Let's keep it going. So yeah, here he's explaining the Robin, or the Nick Wild to me. And I drew a parallel to the Robin Hood from set 3, because it's the same deal where you're playing a 1-drop on 1, you're shifting on 3, and it's swinging at stuff and controlling board while benefiting you in some way. Robin Hood would give you lore, this draws you cards. Definitely a cool addition to Steel. The uninkable 5 cost is a little steep, but it's manageable for the most part. All right, so here we see Genie being played and Peter Pan questing for 2. Peter Pan obviously being safe due to the evasive tag. I'm not worried about giving giving Nick Wild the potential to draw more cards. He goes ahead and quests with Nick here because of what I said, like 5 attack, nobody, or 5 strength, nobody really wants to punch into that and give up their entire board in the early game. I have 4 strength on my whole board, so like I'd have to give him 2 out of my 3 characters in order to clear the Nick, and at this stage of the game that's not really worth it. So we do see him play Doc with no trigger, followed by Lexington. So the Doc, kind of whatever, that's cool. It shows us that his hand was pretty bricky, but the Lexington's an issue. We don't want to turn either of these evasives sideways now. That Lexington does a lot to just put us in check and put me in a very weird position. And at this point, I'm fairly certain my hand was Headless Horseman, Cheshire Cat, and 2 other cards. So I had to play the Horseman, and the best target for the Horseman at this stage is the Jasmine. So pretty low value, low tempo turn on my side. And thinking about it in retrospect, I probably should have just traded Genie and Palace Guard for the Nick Wild. But we do see another Nick Wild coming down, this time the Enchanted, followed up by Lexington singing Strength of a Raging Fire. That clears our Horseman, preventing us from using that strength buff to clear the board next turn. And then he follows it with a Beyond the Horizon. So everything working, like firing on all cylinders here for the blue steel. This is definitely a more mid-range version of the deck that feels more like playing against traditional Steel Song than any other deck I've played against recently. Like Steel Song kind of evolved to be more of an aggro deck in recent sets, but this feels like control Steel Song, like back when we were Robin Hood shifting and all that good stuff. So if that's something that sounds appealing to you, I would definitely look into building this deck. It doesn't look awfully expensive to build. There's no Cinderella. There's no Hades even. I think Vincenzo and Tink are like the big threats. So here I'm debating. I have a Dumbo in hand. I could go ahead and use the Dumbo to draw 2, or I could play something else. And I think I decided that I can't lose the resource war. I have to draw cards. So I kind of give him my evasives. I ink again, or I ink here. I use Dumbo trigger again. And my logic here is I can't just freeze myself the whole game and let him get to his 7 ink and beyond turns. I need to start doing something. So if he has to swing his Lexington into one of my guys and I can maybe flat back with the Dumbo, it's not the best thing in the world, but it is what it is. But here we see the card that honestly single-handedly swung this game's tempo, Ink Runner. Ink Runner, 2-cost inkable item, draws a card on play, but you can pay 1 to exert it and give a character alert for the turn. We see another Beyond the Horizon here, and this time he's actually going to hit both our hands because I had 3 cards, so he figured, oh, he's holding 3 pretty good cards, which that Hercules, spoiler alert, is a very good card. But yeah, we see the Ink Runner on the healthy Nick Wild here, and he was actually given resist by that Jasmine. So lots of really good synergy here. He's able to clear that Peter Pan, draw a card, and another Jasmine comes down, giving resist to the Lexington. So he only takes 1 damage off of the challenge of the Genie. And he follows it up with a Tipo, because why not? Against Amethyst Steel, or Amethyst Steel. I'm used to playing Amethyst Steel, so that's where my brain is. But against most Amethyst decks, Amethyst Ruby as well, if you're able to be wider than them consistently, if you just have a lot more bodies than they do, it's hard for them to recover. So that's what we're seeing here. I'm not in a great spot. I'm kind of just sitting here like, wow, there's so much stuff to deal with and I have so few options. Once more, I see Headless Horseman, which has to clear a 1-drop Jasmine. And so here, this might have been a misplay actually. Horseman buffs my... Oh no, sorry, this is not a misplay. So Horseman banishing the Jasmine actually buffs my Dumbo to 4 strength. So I could clear this Nick Wild. I think... Do I do that? I think I do clear the Nick Wild. Because he doesn't have resist. So like, the Lexington's annoying and all, but the Nick Wild is really what's keeping my opponent in this game. So... I chose to... Oh, okay. Interesting decision here. I chose to put the 2 damage on the Lexington, which... Now oh, yes, because Lexington had resist. So yeah, put the 2 damage on the Lex, understanding that next turn, if I was able to swing Horseman into something and banish it, Diablo would gain a strength and there be able to challenge the Lexington. But we do see the Arthur, the 7-cost Arthur come down, along with another 1-cost Nick Wild. But the 7-cost Arthur gives Challenger +2, Resist +2, and the ability to challenge ready characters. So that really turns that Nick Wild into a problem. And you combine that with the Ink Runner, and you're really dealing with any threat your opponent might manufacture. I really do love some of the synergies here. And as we can see, game 1, despite me being on the play, did not go well. I end up scooping it up once I see that wide board and once I saw the lack of options in my hand. But to be fair, my opponent did have it all. They had strength, they had double horizon, they had multiple ways to swing with Nick Wild and draw cards. So everything, like I said, the deck was firing on all cylinders. It was a great exhibit of what this deck is capable of when it hits its high roll, you could call it. And that might not even have been its entire high roll, because you could do some crazy things with the Jasmine shift into the Nick. But yeah, let's skip over the altar phase here and get into our game 2. So I do open up, let's see what I inked. I do open up by inking a... What is that? The David Zanatos, which I ended up inking, I think, all 3 games. I didn't get to play it, but it is a very powerful card in this color combination. And we see a sale for a Nick Wild. So we're worried about the threat of the shift once again. We probably only have 1 turn of safe questing available to us here. Okay, so I'm thinking about inking here. It looks like Peter Pan does go down into the inkwell. I learned from game 1. I was like, all right, maybe just spamming evasives and trying to go under this deck probably isn't the answer. I have to be a more disruptive presence. I have to make the game more inconvenient for my opponent to play. And that's really what Lorcana is about sometimes. Like, even if your deck doesn't have tons of disruption tools, if you're just making the game inconvenient for your opponent, that alone can win you a lot of games. All right, so here we see Diablo going into the inkwell and Cheshire Cat coming down. So Cheshire Cat, 3/4, boost 2, you can move some damage. This is a cool play here, because despite being a 3/4, we do have Lumiere in play. And Lumiere buffs it to a 4/4. So we'll see that come up here, actually. Not this turn, but the next turn. For this turn, we see Tipo questing and a Pleakley being played to accelerate the ink total even further and to conserve hand size on my opponent's part. So I ink Timothy. I play the Genie to draw a card. And this is where I'm thinking. I'm like, all right, if he has the shift, him drawing a card isn't the worst thing in the world. I quest the Cheshire Cat, understanding that if he shifts and swings, he has to trade. So he makes exactly that play. He immediately swings and he puts 3 damage on it. So he wasn't aware of the Lumiere. This, I don't know if he had already seen the card off the top. It looks like he glanced at it, so maybe it wasn't eligible for the take back rule. But and I'm gonna pause it real quick. Our only real punish in this situation, turning that Cheshire Cat sideways, is if he has strength over Raging Fire. So if Pleakley is able to sing strength on Lumiere and then Nick Wilde challenges the cat, I'm in danger. But I had to roll the dice and hope he didn't have it, which he did not have it, and it ended up working out in my favor, allowing me to eliminate his biggest early threat and get my questing, getting the ball rolling for my questing. We're 5-1 here, dropping a second genie to accelerate that clock even further. And we ink Peter Pan. We do know our opponent's playing Horizon, and we do have a healthy amount of 5 and 6 cost threats in the deck. So I think even though I'm not immediately able to use that ink, just having the potential to spend 6 ink next turn makes it worth doing that. As opposed to in Amethyst Steel, I usually don't ink to 5 until I'm ready to play a 5 cost, and I never ink to 6 unless I absolutely have to. Okay, so going back into my turn, we saw the Tinkerbell being played, spreading some damage around, and Pleakley finishes off the Palace Guard, taking 2 damage back in return thanks to Lumiere. And I think I have to think a little bit here because my hand had a few different branching play lines where I was like, any of these could work. What's the best thing based on the board state and the game state? Let's see. So the genies always quest here. We're at 5, going to 9 this early in the game before our opponent has really established a board, or much of a board really, is really beneficial to us. We are very much a tempo deck that can cosplay as an aggro deck sometimes, so being able to get to that high lore total early is very helpful. So here I did have the Elsa in hand. I could have played Elsa and swung Elsa and Genie into Tinkerbell, or just taken out Pleakley with Elsa, but instead I opted to ink the Elsa, play the Ursula, which is a 4/5 quest for 2, but it has boost 1. It gains evasive and +1 lore. So that's a quest for 3 that doesn't get taken out by Lexington here. So that, like, I didn't know my opponent had the Lexington, obviously, but that ended up being the swing point in this game right here, because going for 7 lore this next turn and him not being able to do much about it, okay, I say he's not able to do much, but we do have a Thunderbolt for the Genie. So we're only going for 5 here. We're going to 14 next turn. We see the Jasmine protecting the Tinkerbell a little bit, and I ink to 7 because I'm playing the Demona, and Demona actually is an all-star right here because the Lexington is now locked exerted, thanks to my opponent now having 3 cards in hand, as he realizes right here. So I think I made a comment like Demona's the anti-gargoyle. She's there to disrupt your opponent's Lexingtons and Goliaths and stuff. We see 7 for the Arthur once again. So Arthur, very scary. Strength, taking out Ursula. So everything going right for our opponent here, or as well as it could. Tinkerbell takes out Demona. Flash damages on Lumiere. Is it Lumiere or Genie? I don't remember. We're just doing some discussion about math. Math is hard. The Tinkerbell goes into the discard pile, but then comes back because we weren't sure how Resist and Lumiere work. But yeah. Okay, so he does do the splash damage on the Lumiere. Quest the Jasmine to kind of get things rolling on his side. But at this point, going to 16 with 4 cards in my hand, I'm in such a comfortable spot that there's very little he can do with 1 card in hand to really answer every threat I'm able to present. And here we see another Genie followed up, I believe, by a Sisu. And that's just 2 more bodies that quest for 2. We go to 16, and now our opponent has to answer 2 out of the 3 bodies in order to have a chance. And I believe we do see a scoop here. Oh no, I think Arthur's singing Horizon into a scoop. Let's see. All right, so we see a Doc. Doc draws 2, one of those 2 being Horizon. So he plays the Nick, he sings the Horizon, and I think he draws like Pleakley, Tipo, some nonsense. Pleakley, Tipo, Jasmine. Yeah. So here we go to game 3. Now, I've played against this deck twice, both times on the play. I have to now figure out a way to deal with a Sapphire deck going first and hitting their top end a turn faster. So it's definitely a tall order. This blue steel variant has quite a lot of early game tools that that do well to complement the late game pressure of Tinkerbell and Vincenzo. So I was definitely sweating a little bit here, like, okay, I hope I see what I want to see, because if not, he's probably just running away with this. And my mulligan, my altar, I kept a Tinkerbell and a 3-drop, because this list, and this probably isn't the ultimate list I'll settle on, but this list only had 9 3-cost characters. So during my altars, I ended up having to keep them more often than not. And I sent back 5. My 5th card ended up being the 2-cost I needed, which was Lumiere. And I ended up drawing like 3 more Lumieres, or 2 more Lumieres over the next couple turns. But yeah, here I'm just thinking a little bit about what to ink. I end up inking the Dumbo and playing Tinkerbell. Now, Tinkerbell is amazing here. Horrible in the late game, because once he's at 6 ink, he's just dropping his own Tinkerbell to clear my Tinkerbell. But here in the early game, Tinkerbell plus Lumiere answers Nick Wilde. So you're either wasting a strength or a Zeus on the Tink, or my Tink's going crazy. So yeah, I did spoil this turn a little bit. We do see Lumiere in the Inkwell and Lumiere on the battlefield. And Tink quest for 1, because why not? Now I think my opponent did not, or I think he did have the shift, but he's already at 4 ink. So rather than shift and trade, he can just play this Lexington and answer my Tinkerbell with the little Nick Wilde, and then just hard cast the big Nick Wilde the following turn. So great, great utilization of resources on his part. And this Lexington definitely posing a threat to all the evasive bodies in my deck. We see a second Namari in the Inkwell, and like I said, that Nick Wilde coming into play. He opts to leave the Lexington standing, so I don't do any shenanigans with Cheshire Cat and Lumiere and whatnot, because boosting some damage over to the Nick Wilde probably isn't what he wants to happen here. Going into my 4 ink turn, we see more thinking. Sorry, like I said, this was my first, or you're watching my 3rd game I ever played on the deck. So, oh man, let's talk about this card. Hercules was the GOAT. Yeah, we'll see him in action here. I'm not going to spoil too much, but Hercules, I think, may have single-handedly won this game. You see me placing a damage on Hercules here and quickly realizing my mistake. This character says he cannot be dealt damage unless he's being challenged. Cannot be dealt damage unless he's being challenged. So, Tinkerbell doesn't work, Zeus doesn't work, Strength doesn't work. And I believe that last card in my hand is Demona. So I go ahead and I ink the Ursula in order to empty my hand. I get the Sisu and Lumiere in play, and double Lumiere is really a pain in the butt for my opponent here because he doesn't want me to keep trading up. So we see the strength being sung on Lumiere, and then a Dock being played, and I believe a Tinkerbell shift coming in to clear the second Lumiere. So yeah, again, me not knowing my cards, I put the damage on the Hercules. I forget about the Sisu. I'm just learning as we go, right? So we do have the 2 damage on the Cheshire Cat, which is cool if we wanted to do some shenanigans with that. But I think I drew ink here, so I'm able to just ink and play Demona. Why am I debating? What was the ink? Oh, it was another Sisu. I don't know why that was such a debate. I think I might have been thinking about utilizing the boost along with the Sisu. So I get to draw 3 cards. I get to once again lock that Lexington with the Demona. Such a powerful interaction. And now Hercules is challenging Tinkerbell without taking any damage. Now let's look at what just happened. I picked up my Sisu and put it in the discard pile. I'm like, oh, I'll trade for this Nick Wild. That seems pretty good. I get rid of the Nick Wild. I got him up to 3 cards in hand, so my Sisu's hidden for 4, and I can take out Nick. This is awesome. Hercules actually has a second line of text on his ability, which reads, while this character is exerted, your other heroes cannot be dealt damage unless they're being challenged. Guess what? Friendly Dragon is a hero that I had no idea about. That's right, it's Sisu. So Sisu actually lives. And you see me double checking the Hercules. Sisu lives that challenge. So I get to take out Tinkerbell and Nick Wild without losing any of my board. And I lock his Lexington in place. So I didn't quest my Cheshire Cat, which is very much a misplay. I think I just didn't realize. But anyways, Vincenzo comes down to clean it up. And our opponent is sitting at 2 cards in hand, so the Lexington will be a threat next turn. But we do see the best Vincenzo answer in the game in Headless Horseman coming down, clearing the Vincenzo, buffing our guys. I ink my Palace Guard in hand to play the 2 Diablos I had. I take out the Lexington, I quest for 4, and at this point, I don't know what deck can recover from this board. Maybe a few MMS prints, like sure, you'll get there, but I'm in such a commanding position here, and we see another Nick Wild come into play, which does kind of slow me down a little bit, but and then we see Strength of a Raging Fire come down to clear the Headless Horseman. So not the worst turn on my opponent's side. Definitely helps mitigate some of the pressure, helps stop the bleeding a little bit. I play another Cheshire Cat. I'm thinking about boosting the damage off of my Sisu, but I decide against it. I don't think there was any real reason to do so, and that top card of my deck could be a very good card. So here's I made a little bit of a gut call here. I was like, if this Nick Wild quests, or sorry, if this Nick Wild challenges me, I want it to benefit me in some way. So the only characters I quested were Demona and Diablo. So if he challenges a Diablo, I'm drawing a card. Well, we're both drawing cards. But if he challenges Demona, he has to swing Doc as well and trade both his characters. So that's why the Hercules and Sisu are left standing here. I don't want to give away free value to this Nick Wild. I don't want to let him. And to be fair, Hercules would have traded back too, but Herc is just a house in this matchup. So I wanna retain my brick wall, and then we see the Doc clear the Diablo. So questing the 2 Diablos was great because now I'm starting my turn with 3 cards in hand, having ended my turn with 0. I see a lot of Amethyst decks cutting Diablo, like Amethyst Steel's cutting Diablo. Y'all need to stop that, please. Card is phenomenal. You need to play it. All right, so here we're sitting at a 9-0 scoreline. And I believe I just started doing some board control. I challenge with Hercules. I quest with Demona. I play a Genie. I play a Dumbo. And Cheshire Cat goes ahead and quests for another one. And at this point, my opponent's seen enough. He could go ahead and send Vincenzo and Doc into my Hercules, but I'm still questing for 3, 4, 5, 6. Going to 18 the following turn. So that's it. That's game 3. We take the set 2-1, having playing a deck I've never played before, playing against a deck I've never seen before. So I definitely thought this was going to be an exciting watch. It's a little bit breath of fresh air in this meta that some people are complaining has gotten a little stale, but I do think there's a lot of innovation, a lot of room for innovation that remains. Thank y'all for tuning in. Much love. Shout out to the team. Shout out the Illuminati. We're everywhere and we're nowhere. Shout out to the viewers. Shout out to y'all. We wouldn't be making this content if it wasn't for you. Shout out to Gabe for hosting this video on his channel and for being a phenomenal presence in the team and a great caster. Shout out to him. Yeah, I'm not gonna ramble on too long. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. I will see you next time. Peace.